Our guest earlier today, Liam Rooney from the Tallahassee Democrat, was suggested to me by Ehsan Kassim, who's now with the USA Today, who covered Florida State for the Tallahassee Democrat. Ehsan now joins us. Ehsan joins us now on 365 Sports. We appreciate it. He was really good. Very nice suggested, Ehsan. We appreciate that. You now are covering the entire full meal deal, the overview of college football. Do you have your schedule? Are you going to travel to cover games on site? How are you going to do your job this year?
I'm going to actually comfortably in front of my couch and being able on my couch and being able to sit in front of the TV and watch this year. So be able to watch a lot more games this year.
See, yeah. You know what's funny is that sometimes you be like, oh, I get to go these places. And then when they're like, well, what if you just watch more at home? And you're like, even better.
Yeah.
That's great.
You get a better feel of the game sometimes, and you can also go to the bathroom whenever you want.
Well, we'll start with FSU. We did have Liam on. He was great. What do you think? Is there any carryover or hangover or anything like that, in your opinion, for how last year ended?
I would like to believe not, just because I know how Mike Norvell operates down there. He let the team stew in that long enough, probably longer than he probably wanted the team as well to do it as well. And he's probably moved on in his mind. Like, obviously he's mentioned a few times to the players, mentioned they're never going to forget it. But I think they're probably going to use it as fuel this year to remind themselves, at least it can't happen again.
Ehsan, I know that you're on the overall, the national beat now, but what's your sense on what will happen ultimately with the ACC right now?
That's a great question. I think, for FSU fans looking for a quick exit, Clemson fans looking for a quick exit, I think it's going to be drawn out a little bit. It's going to be a process, as we see with legal matters. Ultimately, I do think FSU leaves. I think it's going to be interesting to see what the market looks like when they are able to get out of that, whatever that looks like in the future. How much ever they have to pay, just because how much sense does Florida State make for a team that already has the Florida market in the SEC? And then the Big Ten probably, I think the North Carolina schools are more appetizing in the sense that you could tap a new market. And so I think it's going to be interesting on both ends to see just what the interest is from Florida State when they get to leave, who's interested and what's a fit, because money talks, as we all know.
Ehsan, how much does Georgia Tech side of things interest you? Haynes King coming back at quarterback. It's interesting. I was just curious about just the excitement level and also your perspective here with the Yellow Jackets, because it's one thing to go play in a neutral location. It's another to go play overseas and then play a conference opponent on top of that to start the season. It's just it's an interesting way to begin things. No,
exactly. It's very interesting. I'm not going to predict Georgia Tech to win this game, but I think that people are, the 11-point underdogs is interesting. I think they keep it close. I think it's a Georgia Tech, team that you mentioned. You turned a very talented quarterback in Haynes King. Well, it's interesting to see how Florida State struggled against running quarterbacks last year and the year before. So it'll be interesting to see, dual threat quarterbacks to see how they can handle him. And then Brent Key, since he's taken over that program, I think he's been one of the better coaches in the country. Has done a good job to lead that program.
For the last several years, I think Brett McMurphy is the one that actually had this, and we went over several notes about the AP Top 25 poll, but it almost annually, 25 or 30 years, except once or twice, a team ranked inside the top 10 will not even be ranked by the end of the year. I don't think you have the top 10 in front of you, but do you have any idea who that might be this year?
Let's see. That's a good question. I do think that, I think Florida State was 10, correct? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they are. Absolutely.
They are. They are a team I could see, going anywhere from, I think, from, being a 7-5, 6-6 team to a 12-1 team, mostly because of that schedule, but also because, they do have the talent. They have some good talent there. But it is a team that I could see going either way. I think any team from 8 through 22 is something that, is pretty even. I would say there's a cutoff. Like, just looking at that, Penn State, Michigan has questions about them. Missouri, Missouri could be a team that's 11 that could be in the top 10 just because of schedule.
So I'm gonna list the 10 teams, and you tell me absolutely you would not bet anything like personally, but will not be ranked. I'm going to go through the 10. You just say yes or no. Georgia.
Yes.
Ohio State.
Yes.
Oregon.
Yes.
Texas.
Yes.
Alabama.
Yes.
Ole Miss.
That's an interesting one. Will Lane Kiffin be there at the end of the year?
Notre Dame.
Yes.
Penn State.
Yes.
Michigan.
Yes.
And then Florida State.
I'll go ahead and say for now, no.
There you go. See, when he stops covering them, he just goes angry with them. I mean, just like
I guess you scare me.
But
a little.
I could see a Michigan falling off the rails only because of the transition, but not out of the
definitely
top.
no.
Yeah. Okay, Paul, anything?
What team do you think is not getting talked about enough?
Just in the top 25 or in general?
In general.
I mean, I feel like Miami, they were 19, is a team with the, Cam Ward, president, that veteran presence at quarterback. You can make the argument Tyler Van Dyke was a better quarterback, but is Cam Ward a better fit in offense? Just a team that could, I don't want to sneak up because I feel Miami's always too big of a flashy school that they never sneak up on you. But they have a schedule that doesn't look, overly crazy. Obviously, that week 1 game against Florida will be interesting because it's on the road in the swamp. You never know what's going to happen in that kind of game. But yeah, I think Miami's a team that could win the ACC. You mentioned Brett McMurphy earlier. He had Virginia Tech as a playoff team, so that was interesting.
Saw that, yeah.
I do think they could surprise people. I'm not sure if they're a playoff team, but I do think they could surprise some people.
All right, I'm going to ask you this. What do you consider, what credentials must you have to be considered a college football blue blood?
I'll start off, you annual contender for, college football playoffs, all that. Got to have the history behind you, multiple national championships, and just, the fan base. Like, I think that the pedigree, the fan base, just the stadium that people know when they mention you, like, yeah, I don't want to go play there.
Yeah, it's debatable because it would include whether Miami and some of those schools that have multiple national titles are considered a blue blood.
I would say if they win in the past 2 decades, they have to win at least one championship, and obviously Miami has not.
Yeah. Yeah, that eliminates Miami. That eliminates what? Let's see, Texas. It's still, they're in that bubble of 20. Oklahoma hasn't won since 2001. Nebraska since 97. Man,
Michigan would have been now just back in
97. Yeah. It's always fun to watch. Yeah. So he mentioned Brett McMurphy. McMurphy has Texas State as the G5 representative as far as the highest rated conference champion. G.J. Kinney and company on a surging with what he's done there in just 1 year, 2 years.
Essen, do you have a favorite G5 team, a team you think could disrupt? I mean, you mentioned Florida State with their schedule. One of those teams is Memphis, who should be pretty darn good this year.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. Memphis is a good one. I'm going to say a team I used to cover could surprise some people. Jacksonville State. Year one under Rich Rodriguez when they were now eligible for the a bowl game was pretty spectacular first season that they put together. So it could be interesting to see how they put it together and look this year.
Yeah, that Jacksonville State, they've come up. That'd be a long way in a hurry. But then Texas State, the same thing with what they have. But he has them as the G5 highest ranked conference champion. Okay, let's look at the SEC with Texas and Oklahoma entering, then we'll get to the Big 12. When you look at the SEC, there's like 6 teams that probably are pretty good, might win 9 games or more, maybe 7 or 8. Which of the ones that aren't a part of that list do you feel like has a chance to win an extra game or 2 this year?
I'm going to go with the team with the toughest schedule in the country, because when you get so many chances, right, you have a chance to pull the upset. So I'll say Florida. They could probably win an extra game or 2. Obviously, Billy Napier is desperate for this year for work out. Otherwise, he'll be gone. So I made the Lane Kiffin clip earlier. Will he be at Ole Miss by the end of the year? will he be looking at houses when Ole Miss is in Gainesville at the end of the season?
That's exactly right.
Do you? I know that the Vegas odds, I think, are on Billy Napier as the first coach to be fired, or at least he's close to the top.
I think I saw that from Bet Online.
Yeah.
He's at the top.
Yeah, they have the toughest schedule. How much of a break do you think that the powers that be of Florida will give him just going into the season because of that schedule, even though they know and they're telling him to improve?
I think he probably still has to be at least a bowl team. Like, I think maybe 6-6, you adjust for the toughness of the schedule, and that probably helps them out. But outside of that, I think if you miss a bowl game, it's hard at Florida with those boosters. It's hard for him to keep that job, I think.
Yeah. Of the incoming four, Utah seems to be the one, along with Arizona, prepared to play possibly at the top level in the Big 12. But what are your thoughts about the Big 12 with so many new teams? 8 new teams in the last basically 2 years that have joined the conference.
Yeah, no, it's hard to keep a conference lineup these days, isn't it? There's so many changes all the time. But I mean, all those, I think you mentioned, I think Utah's with a great coach coming in is going to be interesting to see, how they fit in and how they play. Their style of football is interesting. They more so than other Pac-12 teams, they like to play a slower game and play well. So I like Utah. I think if I had to pick one team right now, it's the Utah probably could win that conference this year.
Ehsan, we appreciate your time, man. Appreciate it. We'll have you again once the season we start to get wins and losses and results and stats.
I appreciate you guys having me on.
Thank you very much. Ehsan Kassim from USA Today with us.